Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This is my boomstick.
Here's Johnny.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Righteous! Righteous! Yeah!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Houston, we have a problem.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back after another little while break. As Sam Dierberger was on vacation, we're back, and my name is willspalding, and of course, I'm joined by Sam Dierberger. And Sam, how are you doing? How is Florida?
Yeah, well, it was mostly play, but there was some business as well.
Of course,
we were
as you
doing
mentioned last time.
I went down there for the podcasting convention and to talk to distributors and everything. So
lots of marketing business too.
Yeah. So we're always busy, but Florida is a wonderful state. It is always beautiful. We both just went there in the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, it's interesting. Well, one of us had to be there.
We both had to make those deals. So yeah, but we're back. We're finally on a normal release schedule again. This week we got to see a movie that we have been waiting for a long time.
And might as well get into it. What is that movie, Sam? What is the movie of the week?
This week we're talking about The Father.
Date of birth?
Friday, 31st of December, 1937.
You're living with your daughter at the moment?
Yes, until she goes to live in Paris.
No, Dad, why do you keep going on about Paris?
You told me.
No, I didn't.
I'm sorry, Anne, you told me the other day. Have you forgotten? She's forgotten. Paris. They don't even speak English there.
That is true. They don't speak English in Paris. I'm pretty sure they speak France.
That might just be the dementia talking. I don't know.
We'll get into all of our thoughts on The Father here just in a little bit. But first, we haven't talked industry news in a while, Sam, and I don't know if you have any. Not a lot has been going on. But do you have anything for us?
I don't have anything particularly noteworthy. I would like to acknowledge that the long-awaited Snyder cut of Justice League came out this last week. Now, to review this film on the show would be probably a disservice to listeners, because in order to appreciate a review, you usually have to watch the movie yourself, and I would not advise anyone to watch the movie. But I have not watched the movie. I watched about 5 minutes of it, and I was like, well, this is why it's 4 hours long.
It just looks so bad.
Because the amount of slow motion in the 5 minutes that I watched was staggering.
Apparently there's like 33 minutes of slow motion. Like an eighth of the movie is slow motion. Which is just insane. Like that should not happen.
There's so much, and there's some where it's like he decided to do like a touch of slow motion, so it ends up looking very strange, because it's like the bricks will fall, like a building will explode, the bricks fall, and the bricks like still bounce up normally, but it's just slightly off, and you're like, what was he thinking?
A couple of my friends want to see it, and I'm hesitant, but I might give it a shot here in the next week. We'll see.
Yeah.
And I'll report back on my findings. But sure. I have a feeling I'm not gonna like what I see. Zack Snyder's like visual style is just like assault to me.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
And it's just disgusting.
It's just disgusting. Yeah, I don't know. I
It's-
don't know.
Apparently it's getting decent reviews, I guess.
Yeah, people are excited for it.
It-
People are.
It's better than, I guess it's supposedly better than the previous version, which I don't know how it could be. I feel like it's double the length, which means it's like double as worse.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. So maybe I might have to give it a shot.
Yeah. I mean, there's some complicated storylines that they have to tackle.
Yeah, yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Sam, one of the characters is a cyborg. We have to know how he got there.
How the heck did you become a cyborg? We need an origin story. Come
Yes.
on.
Yes. Well, I have one little bit switching from Warner Brothers to Disney. Disney
Sure.
released the other day that, or said the other day that they're going to be releasing the new Marvel movie Black Widow and the new Cruella movie with Emma Stone
Ooh.
on Disney Plus Premier Access, so which I think is going to be $30. The same day that it comes out in theaters. You know, they finally pulled the gun on one of the big ones, a couple of the big ones.
Mhm.
And then they kind of said in that statement, which I actually kind of appreciated. They
Yeah.
said like this year is all about just trial runs and tests. So we're just gonna see. And you know, I guess I'm finally glad that things are just gonna be coming out one way or another.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's weird because there's so much in betweenness. Like 2021 will be definitely a year of in between because
Yeah.
the vaccines will be rolling out gradually over the course of the year. So you just don't. It's going to be so hard to estimate for theaters how many people they can expect to pack in on any given weekend.
Right.
So, you know, the streaming services have to pivot accordingly. So yeah, not good news for anybody except us, perhaps.
Yeah, especially theaters. Yeah. And we
Right,
said that
right.
I feel like a broken record. I feel like we say that a lot, but it is what it is. And Sam, I want to get I feel like we'll do Cruella on this show. And I'm interested to hear what you like. What are you thinking about that movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think Emma Stone is really good casting.
I just think
Right?
that whole project is just really interesting to me.
Because you had Glenn Close in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And first of all, who really asked for a Cruella origin story?
I don't think anyone, but that's why
I don't think
like,
anyone did.
That's why I'm interested to see what they're gonna do.
And I mean, I know everyone's like, oh, when it comes to Disney villains, like she's one of the worst, Cruella de Vil. I remember watching it as a child and thinking, okay, yeah, she's kind of creepy, but she's not like pure evil. She just hates dogs.
Well, and I
mean,
think
I
that's-
don't like dogs, so
I don't either. So I guess they could have casted us, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, I would. I don't
right.
know.
It feels like, though, from what I've seen in the trailers, which look pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
That this has nothing to do with the 101 Dalmatians, though.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's I'll be curious to see what they do, and I think Emma Stone is awesome. So that's part of the reason why I'm on board with this. But
Right.
yeah, this will be interesting.
And she hasn't really played like an evil character yet.
No, not really.
And I understand it has to kind of be like, since it has to be in the vein of an anti-hero, you know, like we have to still,
Because she's the protagonist, right?
She is the protagonist, so we kind of have to, as an audience, watch someone devolve into evil, a la Arthur Fleck or Walter White. So I don't know. Can the Disney writers pull it off?
Well, we'll find out May 28th.
May 28th. That's coming up.
So, yeah, so actually, that we'll have our Oscar episode. Oh wait, no, that's about a month after the Oscars. No, I was thinking April 20th for some reason. Never mind, scratch that.
Right.
But yeah, that's all industry news I have to talk about, Sam. Unless you have anything else, do you want to get started on The Father?
Dude, let's get into The Father.
All right, here we go.
Dad, I'd like you to meet Laura. How do you do, sir?
I say, you're gorgeous.
Thank you. I must say he's charming. Yeah, not always. Laura has come round to help you.
I don't need her or anyone else. I can manage very well on my own.
Everything all right?
Who are you?
Actually, it's me, Paul.
Oh,
I live here.
what is this nonsense? Anne?
It's me.
Ah, there she is.
Your father seemed a bit confused.
Something wrong?
Where's Anne?
Sorry?
Anne, where is she?
I'm here.
Sam, can I ask you a question? Did you lose your watch?
I must have misplaced it. I don't know. What did you do with it?
It could be in the cabinet. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. So The Father, finally out. Gosh, I remember hearing about this movie like well over a year ago.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because because Hopkins is in it, Olivia Colman is in it. Hopkins obviously one of the great actors in his generation. Olivia Colman is like, it feels weird to say, but like really bursting on the scene now. Like she won an Oscar a couple of years ago, and like The Crown is like the biggest TV show ever right now. We saw after the Golden Globes, and like,
yeah,
you just knew there was something going to be brewing with this movie. And I'm so glad I finally got to watch it. But what was your exposure to this prior? Like, were you excited for this, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I do remember reading an article probably around just before last year's Oscars, because they were talking about, of course, Anthony Hopkins getting his first nom in like 20 years for The Two Popes. And then they mentioned like he's going to be in another project next year called The Father, which, by all accounts seems to be also Oscar territory for Hopkins.
A contender. Right.
So, and they kind of predicted that it was a little prophetic. So, yeah. I knew the basis of the storyline, and in a lot of ways, the Father, after watching it, is pretty much exactly what you'd expect from it, in the best way possible, I would say. I don't think it's much more than what you hope for, but it is exactly what it claims to be.
Interesting.
That's a quick 2-second review of The Father. But how about you? When you were going into it, what kind of expectations did you have?
Right. So I saw this movie about a week ago, the same day we did our last podcast, actually. And I kind of said in that we were kind of going over the Oscars, and like I kind of said, like, I haven't seen The Father. We'll see where that lays. So I went into it kind of thinking, I was kind of like, where do I think this is going to sit of my favorites of this year's Oscar Best Picture nominees? And I was like, if this cracks the top 4, I'll be pleasantly surprised. Because I didn't really know what to expect. I guess I knew the performances would be good. I figured with its play nature, it being a play, that the script would be pretty good, dialogue heavy, I should say. And I came out of this movie really blown away. I really liked this movie quite a lot. And I can only imagine how effective and emotional this movie would be if you knew someone who was going through what the father, Anthony Hopkins' character, is going through.
Right.
So, yeah, I was blown away by this movie. Really, really, really liked it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely in that same vein. It's definitely a very competent mixture of humorous relief and seriousness, because the story itself is absolutely devastating. It's just
Sure, absolutely.
Pretty much a pessimistic look at life, but Hopkins is able to bring so much, like,
oh, he's incredible.
He brings so much grace to the role.
Yeah,
and he has so much charm. Charm is probably the right word.
Yeah.
That it's like he's so human. He's just brilliant. And I remember reading, there was an article that came out a couple weeks ago which featured an interview with him, and he kind of said about this role in particular, they're like, how do you get into the headspace of a character like this who's suffering from Alzheimer's? And Hopkins says, actually, this is one of the easiest roles I've ever played.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know why he said that?
He said that because he's like, it's all I had to do was to think about what it would be like when this is your life, and you just, everything's natural after that.
Interesting. I mean, I guess you can see that applied. I mean, when he's supposed to be confused, he looks scared, and when he feels with it, he looks happy and joyous. Yeah. So that's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I think for me, obviously Hopkins is phenomenal. Coleman does great work here as well. I thought the script was awesome. I really did.
Yeah.
It's way, I mean, most of this movie is, we're led to believe, is like one day.
Right.
I didn't really pick up on that right away, but it's pretty obvious when you get about halfway through. You're like, oh my gosh, this is the same day, which is just crazy. Because each event happens like so many times, you're not sure what's going on, which I just thought was awesome. It's almost as if, like, I mean, you're just as confused for a little bit as Anthony Hopkins' character, who I should probably just look up the name. What was his name again?
His name's Anthony, I think.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yes.
Or Anthony.
Anthony.
I don't know if that's the British accent, the British pronunciation. I don't know.
Yeah. Anthony. Okay. Yeah. Like we're kind of confused right with Anthony, wondering what's going on the whole time. And Sam, I want to ask you, at what point did you realize, like, you can't trust the unreliable narrator?
Yeah. It's you put unreliable narrator in your review, which is a really good way to put it. Like, even though there's no narrator, it's just like, it feels like the unspoken narrator is constantly telling us lies, and that's how it feels to suffer from dementia, I guess. And so I think the point is, within the second scene, you're like, wait a second, so Olivia Colman's character, or Anne, she has now been replaced with a different person, and you see this person, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not Olivia Colman, is it? And you're like, it's not.
No.
And then you're like very confused, and for about 5 minutes you think, oh, is this his other daughter? It must be his other daughter, and one's divorced,
right,
and one's not, because we keep getting this mention of another daughter, and we're not really sure what happens to her. And then there's a turning point, and we find out what happened to her, but we're not even sure if that's real. Like, it's almost, it is frustrating to watch, and it's intentionally frustrating to watch, because you're supposed to get into Antony's headspace, and it does a flawless job at cluing us into his feelings.
Yeah, agreed. It was pretty crazy to watch this movie as it went along through his days. I mean, we're not really sure how much time has passed, and he doesn't even really know, and the events keep happening to him over and over again. And I think the whole time you're kind of thinking like, man, what's going on here? Like, why do we keep like we're living the same thing, or we're going back and forth? And I think where it really hit me was when it's like a third of the way into the movie and we see Olivia Colman's character in the shop buying the chicken. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is jumping everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that just like shows like how Antony just runs everything together, and he's not sure what's going on when or how to deal with it. I guess.
Right.
And it's just pulled off so well.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard. And the thing that I kept going back to actually is, you watch the first scene and you're like, oh yeah, I totally see why this was a play originally. You can totally see it's like one setting, two characters having dialogue. And then as the narrative unfolds, you're kind of like, I don't know how they did this as a play. I'd be very curious to see the play.
Agreed.
Because a lot of it is dependent on the camera tricks. And a lot of it is like a lot of quick cutting between things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know as an audience member how I could watch this as a play and not be absolutely confused.
Agreed. It's probably done a little bit differently, but
yeah,
it's definitely, I feel like it's better fleshed out in the form of a movie where you can have costume changes and different ways of moving the viewer's eyes with the camera.
Right.
Is definitely played out better, or would be played out better, I would imagine, with a camera.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
I
don't know.
I want to ask you, Sam, what were your thoughts? And maybe this is kind of what you were hinting at in your review of, because the movie really goes back to things multiple times. I mean, I played a little bit in the trailer there, but like we talk about Anne moving to France like 4 separate times. And like sometimes she's not, sometimes she is, sometimes she's not, sometimes she is. And that's just one example. But like we go back and forth on things a lot in this movie. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just another way to play into the frustration of the audience. As someone who knows someone with dementia, I mean, that rang very true. I mean, that happens a lot.
Going back and forth.
Yes, where you'll get something, where this person will get something in their head and you literally don't know where it came from. And you're like, that's not where, when did I ever say that? And the other thing that the movie does really brilliantly is that it takes things relating to other characters and Antony starts applying them to like Olivia Colman's character. He starts applying them to Anne, even though he's just seeing things out of from, like, he's just seeing things from out in the world,
right? And
then he starts applying them to Anne, and I think that's very indicative of Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that.
Sure.
Very well done in that regard. And
the whole movie is really like that. It's kind of relentless in that way, actually. We're never sure what to think. We're never sure what is real, what is not. We're never sure who is who, really. I mean,
right.
The scene where Anne's husband is just sitting down saying like, I'm in my house. What do you mean? And And then Anne
Yeah.
comes up, and it's not Anne. I played that part in the trailer, or as well. That part was in the trailer, and that's the point where we're really like, okay, is Anne married? I'm confused. Like, is this his house or is this someone else's house? Like, because the whole time, you know, Anthony keeps saying like my flat. You know, this is my flat, whatever. And then eventually we learn like, oh, this isn't his house. This is his daughter's, and it's almost like you know you're unwrapping a present, but then it just leads to another present inside, and then you keep unwrapping. But you're never sure like what exactly it is.
It's a Russian nest doll.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's better.
Yeah. It's difficult. The other thing that's interesting about the flat situation is that from all that we're led to believe, he has not been living in that flat very long.
No, maybe a couple months. Yeah.
But he's developed this like attachment to it because he knows his way around it. He's never confused when he's in it, like in terms of the layout. And he's gotten this idea in his head that it has always been his flat. Yeah. And he's been living there forever, you know? Which I don't know what the director was trying to get across with that, but there is something there that's really fascinating and kind of engrossing. A similar symbol could be his watch, as you alluded to earlier. We keep going back to this watch, and I think that's a really effective symbol as well, because a watch is supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be objective. It tells time. It doesn't stop moving.
Right.
It is always accurate. And when you lose your watch, you lose your perception of time, right? Just as Anthony is losing his faculties and his perception of everyone around him.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I also want to ask you, Sam, where did you think this movie was going? You know, this whole time, Anne is kind of debating like if she needs to put him in a home so he can get better assistance, because her boyfriend, or we're confused who kind of this guy is too, that's at dinner with them, is telling him like he needs help, blah blah blah. You know, is she going to France? Is she not?
Right.
Where did you think this was going? And then when it actually got there, we'll get to that in just a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I thought initially that Anthony would probably find some sort of environment where, whether that be a nursing home or another flat or this flat, that where he could be comfortable and at least like kind of know what's going on around him. But they decided to go for a bit of a more darker ending. But yeah, I didn't foresee like Anthony dying or anything. I didn't really see Olivia Colman actually, you know, leaving him. I thought she would be guilted into staying, perhaps.
Right. Yeah, I think.
What were you? Yeah.
I just think like the whole time we're really not sure what to believe, and I think while I was watching it, I do this in movies. I always try to figure out what's going to happen. I almost gave up trying to figure out what's going to happen with this movie because there was almost no sense in trying, because every other scene something else was going to happen according to Anthony. So
yeah,
it was I was never even certain what's going on, so how could I be certain where this was going? So I liked that. Like I almost gave up trying to figure out where Florian Zeller, I believe the director's name is, director writer, was leading us. So yeah, I liked how we got there, and I did like the ending actually too. Should we get into the ending?
Yeah, I mean, I just have one more point on that
go for it.
actually, which kind of sums up the movie, I think, is that you shouldn't go in watching this movie expecting to see like a really intricate story.
Agreed.
Or even a relationship. Really, it's not really about the characters necessarily. It's really just an immersive experience about what it's like to have dementia.
Yeah, that's a great example. That's a great
the elements in this story are not really specific, are not really important. Because Anne could have been going anywhere. She didn't have to go to France. It could have been she was moving to America or something. It doesn't matter. The point is that you absolutely dissociate from understanding anything that's going on around you. And so you should very much view this film as like that. Yeah, like an experience and less of a movie almost.
Yeah, that's a good point. This movie's not really about the relationship between Anthony and his daughter Anne. I mean, it has their relationship in it sometimes, but it is really just about his story of having dementia and putting you almost in his shoes the entire runtime.
Right.
But anyway, we get to the ending. We're going along, and we think, maybe he's just gonna stay there, and he found a caretaker that he seems to like, blah 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 blah. But eventually, he wakes up in this nursing home and goes to the door and calls for Anne, and he realizes he's in a hospital or a nursing home of some sort, and Anne is not there. She's in France. So his original thought of her going to France ended up being true. And what'd you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't expecting. I thought there would be some amount of guilt on Anne's part, even though, from an objective level, it's not, she shouldn't have to be taking care of her father to the level that she does, and I thought this is actually kind of a disappointment in the movie, because the movie's called The Father, and I thought it would be a lot more about like kind of a generational tale,
Sure.
The question of how much do I really owe my parents? Like, I have a life too. Because we see that Anne is burdened by her father's illness, and so I mean, that is really, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's a really interesting question. So I thought we were going to see that more, but yeah, I did not expect her to be off in France. I did not expect Anthony to absolutely just absolutely lose it.
Yeah, break down.
We see him literally I think it's regression in the psychological sense. I think it's called regression. Kind of a Freudian term where you devolve into what essentially a baby, and you see Anthony just calling for his mother, which is just absolutely devastating to watch. And by the end, he does not know who he is.
Yeah, when he woke up in the nursing home, I was honestly devastated too. I thought, man, that not where I wanted it to go. You want a happy ending, and this was anything but. I mean, yeah, you're right. We see Anthony, he's scared obviously at first because he doesn't know anyone here, and he doesn't have his daughter, the only person he really does know. And then, regresses really back 80 years into when, he just needs his mom, and we ended there really, which was really crazy. And I couldn't believe it went there, but looking back on it, it feels like that was probably the only way to end it. So it's definitely interesting.
And that's perhaps the point, right? It's saying like the only good news that you can have when it comes to diseases like this is that eventually your suffering will end when you die. Like, because you can't cure it,
Right.
and it'll only get worse. So, like you say, it has to end like that. But it doesn't make it any easier to watch.
No, absolutely not.
But what did you make of essentially the last shot of the film, where we see the camera pan out the window and zoom up towards a tree on a nice summer day?
Well, I think, he says that, Anthony says that in the movie that he's losing his leaves, and that's the ending scene too, I believe.
Yeah.
And the nurse that's kind of helping him when he wakes up is like, "What do you mean you're losing your leaves?" She doesn't really know what he means at first, but there's that picture that everyone sees in like 9th or 10th grade health of like a good way to picture dementia, and it's like a full tree, and then the tree next to it is like half of the leaves are gone or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like everyone sees that, or at least knows what it is, and I guess that's just the symbolic. A tree losing its leaves is like the symbolic way to show dementia. So in that sense, I guess that closing shot feels fitting.
Yeah.
But also, it feels a little on the nose.
Yeah, it might have been a little forced. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it's. And the other tragedy of the ending scene, of course, is he is in the best place he could be.
Yeah, agreed.
Like he has someone looking after him, but he is so unfamiliar, and it's kind of implied that he wakes up like that every day.
Yeah, you'd think.
He wakes up confused and scared.
I want to get your thoughts on one more thing before we maybe talk about some wrap-up thoughts and Oscar talk. We didn't even mention it, or you did for a second. The other daughter, and where that plot went. Let's talk about that for just a little bit. So, the whole time he's mentioning this other daughter was his favorite, and I mean, that alone would be hurtful to hear. But he keeps on saying that this other daughter is his favorite, and like, oh man, I wish you would come see me, and that like I'd be so happy, like it'd be great. And this whole time we're thinking like, oh man, what's going on? Like this other daughter. For a second, I was like, does she even exist? I don't know. Like, and we go further along, and we eventually find out through his aide, she apologizes since she looks like his other daughter, apparently.
Yeah.
She apologizes and said, I'm sorry to hear what happened to your other daughter about the accident. And he has no clue what's going on, or he doesn't know what she's talking about.
Right.
And I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it also suggests a sense of like denial that he has. It's not just the illness, but or the illness has been maybe a catalyst for his denial about his other daughter's death, tragic sudden death. So he's faced tragedy before, and now we're seeing him kind of come to grips with it, because then we have a later scene where he steps out into a hospital which looks very similar to the one he's really staying in, and he opens a door, and his other daughter is lying there, like taking her last breaths. So yeah, I mean, I think that worked really well. I kind of did see, I assumed that the other daughter was dead. I don't think he would imagine that, because I don't think that's, I didn't think he would imagine it, because it's not indicative of, dementia. Because with dementia, you do tend to like recognize your immediate family, I feel like. But so I don't think he would have invented it, but I did have a creeping suspicion that she was dead, or at least very, very estranged, because he keeps saying she doesn't talk to me much, but she's my favorite.
Yeah. And the whole time when we figured out like that she was dead, I mean, it's devastating for Anthony, but he doesn't remember. So it would be even more painful for Anne who, you know, every time that her father says something like, I wish my daughter would come, I mean, I bet she's told him probably a dozen times that, hey, I don't even remember her name, the other daughter. It doesn't matter. That
Lucy,
she's
Lucy.
dead. I'm sure she's told him that multiple times.
Yeah.
But
this is an interesting thing too, because I have heard stories like this where one spouse, for example, would have severe dementia and the other spouse would die. Okay. And after a while, you know, rather than breaking the news of their death to this person repeatedly, they just decide, the family members just decide, oh, we'll just tell him, we'll just tell her he's taking a vacation or something, you know? And he'll be back next week, because she's not going to remember anyway. So that is a strategy people start employing, because it's like, why would we want them to suffer over and over? Grieve over and over again. So I suspect that's kind of what Anne's doing, because she just stopped bringing it up.
Right. Which is
suffering.
even more devastating. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Sam, are you ready for some wrap up thoughts?
Yeah, let's do some wrap up thoughts.
I'll go. I just thought I really, really like this. Obviously, the performances are great. I thought the script coinciding with the editing was just fantastic, of like jumping between timelines and parts of the day. And, you know, sometimes scenes would literally come full circle. I thought that was just super clever, and how that was laid out. And I love the direction that Florian Zeller went on with this, and I thought it was executed to a T, and I'm excited to probably not see this too many times in the future because of how sad it is, but this is definitely one I'll go back to.
Yeah. No, I agree with most of what you said. I mean, I do have problems with it, as I kind of mentioned. I wanted more out of the characters, I suppose. I wanted something specific to the characters. And I wanted to see more of that, you know, father-daughter relationship. And kind of some musing about that. But, you know, the other thing that's kind of, you know, perplexing me about it is, like I said, it's an immersive experience. It's like immersing yourself into a dementia patient for an hour and a half. It's not necessarily a film, so I don't know how much I'll come back to it, but it's very well done for what it is. Like I said initially, it's everything you want it to be. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Sure. Gotcha. Well, Sam, before we get into grades, and we'll do Oscar talk grades, but before we get into that, Florian Zeller, the director, has another movie in the works called The Son. So he's sticking the father and son, which is kind of funny in its own right. And the only one sentence description is it's called The Son, and then the description is A Tale of Adolescent Depression.
Oh no.
So
oh no.
What are your thoughts on, like, is Florian Zeller like gonna do the mother, the daughter, you know, the cousin? Like what do you think's going on here? Is he like
he is a madman.
These are tough topics to tackle, and he's just going for it.
I don't know what his deal is. I'm on his Wikipedia page right now, and on his personal, like the personal table, it says children, one son. It's like he's a mysterious fellow. But yeah, I mean, if he's just going to keep tackling these kind of familial issues, then, you know, fine by me. I was impressed enough with the father. I mean, I'd be excited what he has to say about teen depression.
Oh, gosh, that might be a weightier topic than what the father is.
He seems like he only makes feel good movies is what it comes down to.
Right.
But yeah, we're excited for his future, Florian Zeller.
Right. And I should say The Father, 97 minutes. Man, that was nice too.
Oh, that's always icing on the cake.
Yeah,
right.
that was just
When it
such a-
doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. But so Sam, I want to get your thoughts on The Father Oscar. I mean, so we know it has 6 nominations. It has Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Production Design, and Best Film Editing. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question in my mind now that Olivia Colman wins Best Supporting.
Agreed.
I mean, she was phenomenal in it, and you don't see that right away. You definitely have to watch the whole thing to appreciate the depth of her performance. Because initially she's just kind of there, but she really digs in this one. And I mean, again, any other year,
This is Hopkins to win any other year.
I mean, like,
He's so
it's
good.
just staggering. It's like a lifetime achievement. Like, if I, as an actor, gave that performance, I would be satisfied for an entire career. And Anthony Hopkins is just sitting here like, I don't need to win an Oscar. This was one of the easier roles I've ever done.
This is a really good performance.
It's so incredible. But I think, as we discussed last week, they're going to give it to Chadwick, which is deserved. I still think it's partially out of sympathy for his death. I think he would win if he was still alive. It would just be a lot closer.
Be a lot closer.
Sure. But yeah. So
that's probably about it.
Hopkins is a close number 2.
Yeah, agreed. I'm glad this got nominated for picture. In a pretty good year, we've talked about it. I'm glad this got in there. And 6 nominations for this is really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. Coleman for supporting actress. I think that's all it'll win, but that's probably all it needs to. So
right.
And 2 Oscars for Olivia Colman. Then that's not easy to do. So good. Like,
No, it's not.
If she does end up winning, good for her.
It's such a short span of time.
Yeah.
What was that? 2018.
She won in 2019, so two Oscars ago, she won Best Actress.
Yeah.
That's nutty. All right, well, let's get into star ratings. We haven't done that yet. I'm gonna go 4.5. Like this is probably a low 4.5, but it's super strong for me. So really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's a high 3.5 for me. Like just bordering on a 4. I mean, it's very good. Like I said, and any other year, this would be near the top of my list. It's definitely, I would say, definitely top 10
Sure.
this year for sure. Oh well, I guess 2020 now, but yeah, I mean that gets. This also concludes our all the Best Picture nominees.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Sam,
2020.
where would we did them all. That's great. Where would you put this? So we have Sound of Metal, Mank, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Judas and the Black Messiah, Trial of Chicago 7, Nomadland, and The Father. Where would you rank this of those?
This is I would go Mank, then The Father, probably.
Okay.
I think that's the right move. Because Mank I would say is a low 4-star. The Father is a high 3.5. So yeah, that makes sense to me.
All right.
What about you?
I have Minari at 1, and then The Father at 2. Mank would be up there. I think Judas would be up there for me.
Sure.
So, I think it's number 2 for me though. So really pleasantly surprised with this. I said at the top of the show that if this came anywhere in the top 4, I'd be happy. So
Totally.
number 2 is good for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also Judas and the Black Messiah God, I really like that movie. Oh yeah, that's tough.
It's a good year, man. I mean,
it's a solid year, all things considered.
And Nomadland's gonna win, so it's should we move on to some recommendations, Sam?
Yeah, let's move on to some recommendations. I actually have one ready. I have one ready for once. About a month ago, I finished a little book called Killers of the Flower Moon, which of course is the subject material for the upcoming Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons picture.
I think I've heard of those guys.
I don't know. They're kind of obscure, but no, I was reading it and I'm like, for once, I was reading it and I was totally like, you know what? I can totally see what Scorsese is going to do with this.
Really?
And I am so excited because it is fascinating. It's fascinating reading material, and it's very much in the vein of like a Killing Lincoln. So it's like historical nonfiction, but it reads like, you know, a fast-paced crime thriller, and it is. And it's such an overlooked piece of history with the Osage Indians and the oil disputes and the FBI, and it's excellent. So check out Killers of the Flower Moon, or check out the movie coming out in 2 years. Either one.
Cool, nice. Yeah, that's interesting. Always down for some Scorsese too, so that'll be cool. I am excited to recommend this as well. I rewatched one of my favorite movies last night. And I've seen this now probably 5 times. I don't even know how many times. And it gets better every time. I kid you not. And that is Greta Gerwig's Little Women. And it's so good on so many levels. There's so many directorial decisions that Greta makes that just blow me away, and the performances obviously are just fantastic. And one of my favorite movies of last year, one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm going Little Women. That's my recommendation for the week.
You know, this is so funny because just yesterday I was talking about this movie with someone because she was like, she mentioned that she was a big fan of the book Little Women growing up, and I'm like, by chance did you see the 2019 edition? And she goes, yeah, I wasn't too much of a fan, and I just lost it.
Come on.
I absolutely lost it. I was like I wasn't either, but
I saw Little Women 3 times in theaters.
I know. I had to talk about you because you just inexplicably just fell in love with this movie.
Oh my gosh, man! It helps that I'm in love with the lead actress. So I mean,
that's helpful.
That just leads me back to it. So
right.
But man, I love Little Women, and everyone should check it out. So there you go.
Yeah.
Although I will say, the real standout on rewatches is obviously Saoirse is fantastic, and she deserved the Oscar last year over Renee Zellweger. But Florence Pugh is so good in that movie, and it blows my mind because she's playing a 13-year-old and a 20-year-old seamlessly.
I know.
That's one of the the first time watching that, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I do in rewatches because, man, she's so good as the 13-year-old and just like shows like the immaturity and youth and hope of a 13-year-old. And then as a 20-year-old, she's like really stern and like understands the world and like, it's great movie. Everyone should check it out.
It is kind of perfect casting because she does have like the perfect face for that.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, yeah, the casting is phenomenal in this movie. It actually works.
And
well.
It's interesting. So Greta's next movie is, I think it's called The Barbie Movie, starring Margot Robbie, which again, great casting.
Yeah, right.
And that just sounds awful, but I can't wait for it. Like anyone else was doing that movie, I would hate it, but since it's Greta, I cannot wait.
What did you say? You said something like a year ago, like you're like, Greta could make a movie about two people sitting on a couch and I would watch it.
I would watch it. I don't remember saying that, but I probably did because it's true.
Yeah, right.
Well,
She is like 2 for 2.
Oh my gosh, Lady Bird. I think I've already recommended Lady Bird, but there you go. Check that one out too. But Sam, where can I find you until next time?
You can find me on letterboxd.com/sjdierberger. And where can I find you, Will?
You can find us in a nursing home. I'm not sure where to go with that one. Or you can find us at anchor.fm/thosefilmnerds and Those Film Nerds on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. And you find me, I don't know if I mentioned it, at Will Spalding on Letterboxd. And until next time, where we are
talking.
Right, exactly, it is. Until next time, where we are tentatively watching a new Netflix movie called Coven of Sisters. Sam.
Keep watching movies, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.